So thank you for joining. And please, it's not late to invite your friend because we want as many people as possible to benefit from this great initiative. I'd like to welcome everybody to um, this month's edition of the Face Youth Mental Health Awareness and Stigma Reduction Seminar. So we hold this event every third Saturday of the month from 3 p.m. to 4 or 5 p.m., depending on the topic of the day and the engagement, right? So today's theme is supporting children's mental health during the transition back to school, strategies for parents and educators. And as we all know, the reason why we chose this topic is because we understand that this is a period where children are going back to school, so a lot of families are feeling anxious issues. Yeah, so Dr. Chudi is our keynote speaker for today. I'm going to do his profile later, but many of us already know him, and he's part of us. He's one of the board of Face Youth. So it's always a pleasure to have him as both family and also keynote speaker. So I will call on one of our board members as well, Chinwe Chukura, to speak about Face Youth. Then we'll play a brief video as well about Face Youth before we get onto the day's event. Yeah. So this is the order of the event. Chinwe will speak about Face Youth, and I will briefly introduce and read Dr. Chudi's profile. We'll have a music interlude by Favored. I'll do a brief presentation about how to keep children safe, both on and offline, and then we can go into Q&A and closing remarks. Thank you. So over to you, Chinwe.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you once again for joining for this session. I'd like to talk a little bit about Face Youth. We saw a lot of people are aware of Face Youth and what we stand for as a body. So Face Youth is actually the foundation for advancement of child education and youth empowerment. And it's a grassroots inspired charitable organization. We have provided services and support for a lot of people, both in Africa and around the world. So like Ify said earlier, this topic is the topic that we're going to speak about today is an inspirational one. And as a lot of you will testify to those who have been attending these seminars over time, you would be greatly inspired by everything you hear today. So I want to welcome all of you on board. Please invite all your friends and family to join this session because I can promise you that it will be a very valuable one. Thank you. Ify, over to you.
Anyway, thank you. So we'll play a short video about Face Youth now. The Foundation for Advancement of Child Education and Youth Empowerment, Face Youth, is a grassroots-inspired charitable organization with vested interest in alleviating poverty, promotion and support of quality education for the disadvantaged child, as well as promotion and provision of vocational and skills acquisition programs for the empowerment of youth. We believe that education and youth empowerment are potentially significant in contributing to the growth of every community. And it is this belief that inspired us to start a Face Youth to bridge the gap in educational opportunities between school children in rural communities and more developed communities by sponsoring as many underprivileged students as possible, by increasing youth representation and involvement in the decision-making process, by promoting and developing entrepreneurial spirit among youth, because we believe that entrepreneurship is one of the pathways to ending poverty. by disseminating relevant information about issues concerning youth written by youth. 3,500 families are beneficiaries of our Street Food Bank initiative, Mission Love. 250 children are beneficiaries of FACEYOUTH scholarship scheme in Nigeria and Malawi, and over 500 children have benefited from the Back to School project between 2017 till date, where educational materials were distributed to 5 different schools in Nigeria. FACEYOUTH have also renovated and established 2 library projects at public/government primary schools in eastern Nigeria. Over 80 young entrepreneurs have been given seed funding to support their business from 2018 till date. Entrepreneurship and mentorship seminars are being organized by FACEYOUTH to empower young people, both physical in Enugu and virtual via Zoom. We believe that mental health needs unashamed conversation. Stigma and lack of understanding are 2 barriers that keep people, especially those from Africa and other ethnic minority communities, from seeking help regarding their mental health issues. It is in light of this that we launched the monthly Mental Health Awareness and Stigma Reduction Initiative for young people to tackle mental health issues in young people, especially from its onset. Our big project right now is the Eastern Food Bank, which was born out of our seasonal Mission Love initiative, because we believe hunger is not seasonal. And another big project is our radio school project to take quality education to remote places with radio network in Africa. Like every charity, our greatest need is financial. If you would like to support us, please, all we ask is for you to make a commitment of 1,000 naira monthly or $2 monthly. We understand that the economy is not stable at the moment. We all need a little extra support. But we believe that these little amounts can help us give children in rural communities quality education they deserve, and also help alleviate poverty. We promise to keep you up to date on our activities and how we are spending whatever donations or grants we get. If you can spare anything at all, it will be greatly appreciated. If you also like to partner with us, or know somebody that would like to collaborate or partner with us, please initiate the introduction. You can contact us via our email info@faceyouth.org, or go to our website www.faceyouth.org/get involved. Thank you. Thank you so much for that video. So without further ado, I would like to call on Dr. Chudi. I'll read a brief profile about Dr. Chudi. So Dr. Chudi, like I said, is one of us at FACEYOUTH. In fact, I don't think there will still be FACEYOUTH without his support and encouragement. So we don't take that for granted, Doc. Dr. Chudi is a compassionate medical practitioner, maternal and child health specialist, and motivational speaker. He is the founder and CEO. He's founded so many organizations and has helped so many organizations grow, but we all know him as the celebrity doctor on Facebook. He founded a group that eventually, I think somebody else took over, or he co-founded and went on to to create his own SGHS, which helps women a lot with raising awareness about maternal health issues. So you should do well to follow him on all social media, Dr. Chukwudi Ufundu. And like his specialties are maternal and child health, women's health, adolescent health, community health. And like I said earlier, he's a motivational speaker and life coach. In fact, I call him an all-rounder because that's really what he is. So, Dr. Chudi, you can take the floor now.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you and welcome, Ife. Thank you for that introduction. Let me see. Let me see. So, how are we all doing today? I hope you're all doing good. Can you all hear me? Please, if you can hear me, just say hi or type in a comment. Everybody, please. We need some positive energy in the house. So please, if you can hear me, if you can see me, and thankfully we're just all, pretty much few. So the fewer the merrier. So I'm gonna mention a couple of names I can see, right now. So I can see if the CEO of this organization who just finished speaking. Chinwe, amazing. She's been so amazing in running this organization. We've been around for a long time. We've been the light in the community, which it's very important, especially to our upcoming youths who we actually know that they're going to be the leaders of tomorrow. I can say Ebenezer. I remember Ebenezer came in as a student. Ebenezer is currently, running his own thing, and he's been very, very amazing. I can see Alan Law. I think you're in Japan. Then I can see who else? Who else? I just want to recognize the few people in the session this afternoon. Now we're talking about our kids, our children, going back to school, and I'm gonna share my slides so we can quickly start. So give me just 1 minute. Let me get my slides started. Here we go. Okay. If you're able to see my slide, just give me a nudge so I will know we are all on the same page. So today we're talking about the strategies that parents and teachers can use to support the mental health of students. So the major reason we started FACEYOUTH is actually to promote, to create awareness about mental health. When we talk about mental health, people don't really, really pay attention to mental health because we are all after the general health. But the truth is, there is no way you can have general health without talking about mental health. So your general health will mirror your mental health. And unfortunately, most of the problems that our children have actually starts from mental health before it will degenerate into general health. I'll give you an example. If your kid is feeling lonely or feeling isolated or feeling unloved and nobody is recognizing those signs and symptoms, it can quickly degenerate into different behavioral problems, which over time will manifest in physical symptoms like fever, like inability to eat properly, and even anemia, which can degenerate into problems. So mental health and general health kind of have a connection between each other. So virtually all the locations in the world, we have students that are just going back to school. They've been on vacation, they've been on long vac and all that. So majority of them have gone back to school. So what we're going to learn today is the strategies that parents and teachers can actually apply so they can support these kids, so they can support these children, and they can cut across different levels of education. So the students might be in primary level, they might be in secondary level or tertiary level. It doesn't really matter so long as that kid is under your home. And even if there are some children we have that are married, but they will still be our kids, regarding what we can give them regarding advice. So that's what we're going to talk about today. My specialty is maternal and child health with epidemiology, which Ife has already mentioned. So everything about women's health, pregnancy, infertility, child development, adolescent health, I actually love helping in that regards. And my basic aim is to help us to understand better things we can do. I divided my strategies into 3 categories. The first category is actually focused on the parents. How many of us are parents currently? If you're a parent, please can you type in the comment section if you wouldn't mind? Can you give me the age of your kids, if you wouldn't mind? It's very important. If you're not yet a parent, maybe you're just recently married or you're single. If you want to start your family, at some point, you're going to become a parent. Now, in our culture now, we have so many different routes you can use to become a parent. And you might actually not think you're a parent, but if you have a relative, maybe a sister, a brother, a friend, you help with raising their kids, you're actually a parent. So at some point, we're going to play the role of parents. So the first strategy, which we're going to talk about regarding our kids that are going back to school, is actually to pay more attention to listening. And when we listen to understand and validate. This is an area that so many parents are not paying attention at all. When few of them listen, they listen with their intention of criticizing, with this intention of talking down on the kid. But we really have to create that opportunity to create a safe space so we can listen and validate our kids. We give them an opportunity to express themselves, express their feelings, express their concerns. The commonest mental health problem that our kids might be developing is like anxiety, depression, and of course, a couple of them might currently be, using some substance that can actually also make their health bad. But if we don't listen and if we don't validate their concerns, their feelings, whatever they are trying to tell you, if they don't have confidence in you, you can actually have your kid at home and you think you understand your kid. Your kid might be doing drugs. Your kid might be following bad people. Your kid's performance in school might actually be very bad. And because you don't create that space, you won't really know what's going on in this kid's life. So the first approach is very important. We have to listen. And when you're listening, listen with attention. Listen to understand. Ask a lot of questions. Be diplomatic when you're asking your questions. Our children tend to be very defensive. When they feel that each time they talk to you, you don't listen because you're busy. And in this era of, internet, everybody is out there in social media, you're not paying attention. They will not confide in you again. And this is a very important stage in their life, especially the youths. This is where they begin to develop so many characteristics, especially sexual characteristics. So it's a very important transition into adulthood. So if you don't really create that space to listen to them, to validate whatever they're telling you, you're not going to get the concerns they might have, the personal feelings. Like if you really know your kids, you will know when your kids are doing better. You will know when they're not doing better. And somehow, if they're not doing better, it's going to reflect in the performance. It's going to reflect in the academics. And when we talk about our kids regarding the academics, it's not just the academics. It's the totality of who they will become, their behavior, their attitude, how they relate with people, how they form their relationships. They are all important. So the first strategy I will encourage you to embrace and practice today, as your kids are already gone back to school, is to pay more attention, listen more, validate their claims. Now, the second strategy, by now you should have known this. When they were on holidays and vacation, they all had scattered routine. They're all over the place. They sleep at any time they want to sleep. They go about watching their videos. They go about doing whatever they're doing. They are not on routine. When our kids and when our, both levels, the secondary level, the tertiary level, or even the primary level, when they are on holidays, when they are on vacation, there is no routine. Anybody can wake up anytime. Anybody can sleep at any time. Anybody can go anywhere they want to go. They don't really have a routine. But as we are now in school mode, we have to go back to establishing a routine. If you plan yourself around your routine, it's going to help you. It's going to help them, especially in this era of busyness. Everybody is completely maxed. You're busy doing a lot of things. You're running your home. You're going to work. You're running a lot of things, including taking care of yourself. So you have to establish a routine. You have to gradually transition back to regular sleep schedule. It's important to understand the need for adequate sleep. Sleep plays a key role in the particular development of mental health problems. When your children are sleeping enough, when your children are doing better regarding rest, when they are not on their devices for a long time and they get adequate sleep, when they wake up in the morning, they will perform better. They will be able to meet up with their schedule. They will be able to meet up with the targets, with the assignments and exams and all that. So setting up a routine is very important. You also have to set a routine for mealtime, for activities, for looking over their concerns, their homeworks, their complaints, how they relate with people. You have to make this a priority. Very, very important. So you have to go back to a routine, particularly see if you can put that routine down where they can always go and reference the routine. When you help them set up a routine, it's going to help them to be well organized, to be well planned. Your kid might be educationally sound. Your kid might be an exceptional kid, very intelligent, very smart. But if they don't have a routine, they're not going to perform better. So it's our duty as parents to help set a routine so they can copy that. Now, when you've done that, you have to stay connected. Staying connected is very important. Unfortunately, we are in the era of disconnection. We are completely disconnected. I can tell you for sure that what you've been doing since you woke up today is to be on your phone or on your device or your computer or your iPad or whatever, and possibly your kids might be on their own, even at meal times, even when we should be focused on staying connected to communicate effectively. You discover that the parents are completely disconnected. The moment you wake up, you want to catch up with what's going on in the social media era, and you don't really get connected with your kid. And if you don't do that, you won't even know the need to connect with the teachers of your kids. So it's important we establish a regular means of communication with our children's teachers to stay informed about their progress, about their challenges. Now, if the school your kids are attending are well structured, of course, they're going to be giving you progress. It might be weekly progress, it might be quarterly progress, but definitely progress report on how your kid is performing. Now, some kids might be doing exceptionally well in their academics, but they might be struggling in their behavior, their attitude, their relationship with other kids. When you stay connected with your kid at school, with the Parents Teachers Association, with the concerns your kids are having, when you pay attention, you can easily pick up when they are struggling. Now, when you've done that, of course, you have to encourage self-care. Everything is all about self-care. If you don't take care of yourself as a parent, how can you take care of your kids? So you have to encourage self-care by being a good example. You have to support healthy habits, like going for exercise, focusing on mindfulness and relaxation techniques, making sure they get adequate sleep, making sure they are eating properly, making sure you're having conversations about it and with them, because you might think your kids are all kids, but every time they celebrate their birthdays, they are developing their milestones. They are developing their personality, their ability. They are discovering new things. They are forming their relationships. So if you don't encourage self-care, they might not really see themselves as worthy. They might not validate their talents. They might think they are not good enough. And these are all signs that can degenerate into mental health problems. So you have to encourage self-care. When you take care of yourself and when you preach self-care, and when you encourage self-care, they will develop good habits. You see, habits like exercising, over time, if you develop that habit, it's going to be like what you do every day, like brushing your mouth. If they develop the habit of being mindful, they might be going through stress, but they have already imbibed that attitude, that practice of being mindful, being thankful, and, easing up tension, which will come. I remember when we were in school, especially if you're a brother, everything you do is pretty much at your own timing. So whether you go to class, whether you read your books or whatever, the only thing that will show the outcome is your results. So there are not many adults. When we have an established way of encouraging them, they will do better. And you have to make sure you lead by example. Now, of course, you have to be very patient. If there is any tool you need as a parent to succeed, is patience. You must be very patient. You must be very understanding. There are some days they will bring you reports about your kids, their behavior, their challenges, how they're fighting in school and all that. They are all part of growing up. Matter of fact, if you have a student, if you have a kid, if you have kids that nobody complains about them, they don't really bring reports about them, you should be worried. Trust me, you should be worried. So long as your kids are interacting with other kids, with their teachers, with their peers and other things, they're going to have, quarrels. They're going to have disagreements. Some will go into physical whatever. They're going to fight. They're going to talk back. It's all part of growing up. It's all part of development. You must pay attention to all these cues. You must be patient and you must understand. And when you notice all those complaints, you have to engage them. This is when you have to listen to your own kid, but don't take sides. Encourage them to give you their own version. Then you listen to the version of the teachers. Then you correct them. Life is all about correction from a positive perspective. Unfortunately, when we were growing up, how our parents corrected us is not the way you can correct your kids, especially using words. You have to be mindful of the words you use with your kids when you're correcting them, when you're helping them, when you're explaining to them. You have to give them reasons for doing things differently. So you have to be different. You have to be patient. You have to be understanding. You have to recognize that the transition can be challenging for them and for you and for the teachers. So as they are adjusting, the first week might be rough, but as they keep going through the second week, the third week, over time, it's going to get better. So the strategies are shared is for the parents. Now let's talk about the teachers. You see, the biggest and the most important, but the worst paying job in life is, the job of being a teacher. At some point, we had teachers. Some of us had the privilege of having our parents teach us. Without teachers, we will be completely gone in our society. Unfortunately, teachers are not properly recognized. They are poorly paid. They are poorly, appreciated. But they do the most difficult job in life. So when we talk about teachers, we have to start creating that opportunity to encourage them. So what about the strategies for the teachers? Number one, as a teacher, you have to create a welcoming environment. You have to understand that the kiddies have been on long holidays, so they're going to come back with a couple of attitudes. Some of them might be, in a different zone. They might not really be eager to start school. They might still want to be on holiday mode. They're all part of transitioning. But you have to create a welcoming environment. You have to foster positive and inclusive classroom environment, atmosphere. Kiddies are going to come from different perspectives, different family backgrounds, different attitudes, different structures, different understandings. You have to create room for everybody. You have to create room for diversity. It has to be an all-inclusive atmosphere in your class. You have to go above and beyond. If you don't have the qualities of being a teacher, you're going to struggle. So you have to create a welcoming environment, especially within the first few weeks of getting back to school. Now, of course, you have to build relationships. So you have to take time and get to know your students individually and establish trust. Trust is a two-way traffic. So you establish trust with them and they establish trust in you, and you help them in their academics, and you help them when they are struggling. And you can also help to identify kids that are struggling because of the home structure. You see, when the home is broken, some kids will take that broken home, outcome to school. But when you have a very good relationship with the kids, you will know when they're struggling. You will create that trust. And when you create trust, when you're teaching them, they will imbibe. And remember that your kids are a reflection of your own performance. So, for example, if you have 10 kids in your class, and at the end of the session, they go for exams, and 10 of them pass, it's a reflection that you're doing your job. There are still some situations where the 10 of them might not pass, not because you didn't do your job, but their outcome and their results will reflect who you are as a teacher. So you have to build relationships with them. You have to be patient. You have to understand them. You don't have to judge. You don't have to equate. You don't have to compare. This is a place that so many teachers are getting it wrong. When you begin to compare kids, you use a particular kid's whatever success they had at that time to, talk down on a particular kid, you're not helping. You're making it worse. So you meet each kid at where they are, their struggling points, their, strong points, and you encourage them to bring out the best. Every child has something unique about them. Every child is gifted and talented differently. It's your duty as a teacher to help them to discover that. Now, of course, you have to be very flexible. Flexibility is one of the keys to success in life as a teacher. So you have to be very understanding of their needs. You have to understand and accommodate their transition. Some will struggle. You have to meet them halfway, and you have to help them as they are going through their transition. It's very important. Of course, you have to teach coping skills. When some kids are struggling in school, they're going to be disconnected. They won't even be paying attention to whatever you're teaching them, no matter how simple it would be. This is when you need to develop your coping skills and share your coping skills. So besides teaching academics in your class, I want to encourage you to incorporate mindfulness. Simple things like deep breathing, stretching, singing, things that would take their mind away from that academics for a few minutes. So they are all part of coping skills. Simple skills like deep breathing exercise, stretching, and all that. You can quickly put it for like 5 minutes, and it's going to go a long way. Of course, you have to teach them self-regulation. For example, when they go into disagreement or they quarrel with their fellow students, you have to teach them how to use self-regulation. You have to teach them stress management. It has to be part of your techniques. When you do this, your kids will be able to cope better when the mental health problems present itself. Some kids might be very anxious. Some of them might be showing signs of depression. When you meet them halfway, the techniques you're going to share with them will also help them to accomplish their goals. Now, of course, you have to stay well informed. So you have to be very aware of the kids' mental health. Unfortunately, this is an area that so many parents are struggling, especially if you're from developing countries. We don't talk about mental health. If a kid is struggling, if a kid had a particular diagnosis, we hide it. We believe it's spiritual. We believe that we don't talk to anybody about this because mental health is seen like a stigma. That's actually the reason why we do this every month. But you have to be well informed about the student's mental health status. If a particular student is having anxiety problem or is going through depression, you have to understand their needs. You have to make sure you support and follow them up. And possibly, if they need to be referred to the school counselors and mental health professionals, you definitely have to do that. You see, when you listen to the current news of students shooting students and committing all those heinous crimes in school, it doesn't happen overnight. These are broken kids that over time, if we don't really pay attention to them, they will harm their own fellow students and even the teachers. But when we understand and we see those signs and we refer them appropriately and we manage them professionally, we can actually identify kids that will go through proper management. And there are so many ways we can manage mental health problems. Now we're going to talk about the collaborative strategies. So collaborative strategies will involve the parents, the teachers. They will meet each other halfway to make sure that the transition will be smooth. It also has to do with open communication. So you have to regularly schedule parents, teachers, conferences to discuss the students' progress. As a teacher, please make it a point of duty to attend PTA. Very important. Play a role in the formative stage, supportive stage, supporting the school, ideas, opinions. Please, when they schedule a meeting, make sure you go for that meeting. That's the only opportunity for you to hear from the sources mouth directly about how your students are performing. Of course, you have to encourage students support teams. You have to establish a team of teachers, counselors, and parents to support students' mental health. So this is a powerful collaborative tool. The teachers, the counselors, and the parents. Powerful synergy. When you combine very good teachers with very good professional counselors, with the parents themselves, there is absolutely no way we won't improve the mental health of our students. Of course, there are so many mental health resources out there. So you have to provide these resources to the school counselors, to the therapists, and even online resources. There are so many you can use. There are kids that might be throwing tantrums. There are kids that might be anxious. There might be kids that might be having some social problems. Just going through these mental health resources will help them a lot. We have to understand that the current society we are living in, it's riddled with a lot of negative stories, a lot of tragic developments. When we were growing up, We knew there were crimes here and there, but it wasn't to this level. So we have to understand that all these news out there affects our kids differently. Of course, you have to focus on family engagement. So you have to involve parents in school activities. You have to encourage parents to participate in mental health initiatives. And finally, professional development. This is for the teachers, this is for the counselors, and also for parents. So it's important that over time, you keep developing yourself, you keep knowing what's the current trend in our society. So you have to offer the teachers training on mental health awareness, on trauma-informed practices. There are so many traumatized kids. So it's possible that during the holidays, they got traumatized. Some of them might have been raped. Some of them might have been physically abused. Some of them might have been emotionally abused. If you don't have the trauma identifying skills, you will not practice trauma-informed discipline. So you have to develop yourself. You have to know all this. You have to create the awareness, and you have to learn crisis intervention skills. So bottom line, as we are transitioning back to school, we have to understand that every student's transition experience is unique. No two students can transition the same, even twins, even siblings. They are all going to transition at their own pace. So remember this, every student's transition experience is going to be unique. So always remember to give them that room, understand with them. Now, by working together, parents and teachers can provide a supportive environment, which over time will promote mental health well-being and academic success. Thank you for coming. That's my presentation.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Chudi. Wow. I can see hand clapping or drum rolls. Wow, what a presentation. Very inspiring. Thank you so much for that amazing presentation, Dr. Chudi. We're always grateful to have you. So I hope you guys took notes. Can somebody tell us what stood out for them in the presentation? Like three things that stood out, or even one thing that stood out for you from this presentation. Can everybody hear me okay, though? Just thumbs up, yeah? Yeah, excellent presentation, very informative, says Chinwe. Abby is giving us thumbs up. Praise is giving us thumbs up. I need you guys to drop one word that stood out for you, really. Thank you so much for that amazing presentation. One thing I got is the importance of sleep. It can never be overemphasized. I know that many of us, like, sometimes you just ask the children to go to bed, oh, it's time's out, and we don't follow up to know if they actually went to bed. Even when you take all the gadgets and all that, some of them, they struggle now because they're trying to switch off their brain and actually sleep. So the importance of sleep can never be overemphasized. Thank you, Dr. Chudi. Thank you. Everybody's saying thank you. Sheila is clapping. I need one word. And Praise said, every child will grow. Yeah, every child will grow and develop differently. So you have to understand that. Abby says, trauma identification. That's very important. My one word is listen. Yeah. Yeah, everybody's saying thank you, Dr. Chude. Thank you for that amazing presentation. So right now, before we go to Q&A, if you have your question, you get them ready. We'll go to Q&A, but we will have a music interlude. Although I'd like to share like a very brief presentation about keeping the children online. I mean, safe online. So just a very, very brief presentation about keeping the children safe online before we go to the music interlude. Yeah. And let me get my slide ready. Can everybody see my slide? Okay. Yeah. You know, when you're presenting, then you struggle to see everybody, but I hope you can all see me okay. So, I don't know how to follow the amazing presentation from Dr. Trudy, but I thought to share this short presentation about, child safety, like keeping the children safe, both on and offline. So it's going to be very brief, like I said. So first of all, what do we understand by child safety, right? I know it's a very broad topic, and if we go into it right now, I don't think we're going to finish this presentation today. So child safety refers to protecting children from harm, abuse, and exploitation, both in physical and digital environments, right? So my key points about safeguarding the children, like the importance of safeguarding the children is one, because of their physical and emotional well-being. Children, or even when they become adults, they find it very difficult to get over the trauma. So I know that sometimes we say we are overprotective of the children, but it is better for you to be overprotective and then live with the guilt of not protecting them enough for the rest of your life. So you can never really be overprotective of the children. I know that sometimes you say, oh, let's leave them to blend in their natural environment. But the world out there is like a battlefield, right? So as parents, we must do our best to safeguard and protect our children, both on and offline. So I say one of the other key points about safeguarding the children, both on and offline, is helping them develop healthy boundaries and self-protection skills, adapting safety measure to an increasingly connected world. And the impact is proper safety measure ensures that children can thrive, learn, and develop very healthy habits. Yeah, so online safety, we all know that we are in the internet age where everything is out there at the moment. So there's cyberbullying, there's online predators, the children are exposed to violent and sexual and disturbing images online. And then we have a lot of privacy breaches. I know that some parents will be like, oh, I did not give my child a phone, but you gave your child the Xbox or even the TV. So we all know that all these TVs, some of them have internet capabilities, especially the modern TVs these days. You can browse on the television, you can do a lot of stuff on the television. So when we expose our children, so because some people will be like, oh, my children are not on social media. Social media is not the only place that are exposed to either cyber bullying or online predators. Even on the Xbox, because I have a friend that the children are constantly on the Xbox, and some of them wake up very late or very early to, engage with other people or play games with people from all parts of the world. So you have to pay attention to that because those children are also prone to online predators. I always tell people, if you give your child any gadget, you should be able to invest the time to monitor the use of that gadget. Many people don't know how to go through the history of their children's either YouTube or even online, what they are doing online. So it's very important that occasionally you just take the gadgets, be it phone, be it iPad, be it the Xbox, be it the television, and look for a way to go through the history. There's so many how-to on YouTube. So even if you're not tech savvy, you can go on YouTube and Google how to monitor your children's history or historical viewing on their gadgets, right? So the next one is the physical world risk. which I call stranger danger. We have to teach our children how to recognize and respond to potential threats from unknown adults. For instance, when they get an advance from a stranger, especially the girls, we'll have to teach them how to defend themselves and cope. Like instead of engaging or being hostile to the stranger because you don't know what they have. Some of them may have knives or gun in the US or whatever, you don't know. And they may overpower you. So what I encourage young people, especially girls, to do is to trick them into thinking that they are buying what they are selling, like you agree with them, so to speak, especially when you are confined in a place where you can't escape easily, and then lead them to somewhere like a crowded place, and you can then raise alarm because if you raise alarm or you try to be aggressive or run and you don't have an escape route, eventually they may overpower you. So I know that it's very difficult, but that's one of the strategies for coping. If you have pepper spray or you have a way of defending yourself, I mean, I encourage people, parents with girls to, put them into taekwondo and karate so that they can learn the basic self-defense skills in case they find themselves in such situation, right? So then we talk about physical bullying, addressing harm from peers in school and community settings, environmental hazards like the risk in the playgrounds, road, and spaces. And I'm going to also talk about the risk of exposing our children's image on social media, right? We all know that some of us as parents, out of excitement or just to celebrate our children's achievements at school, we tend to post their photos with the full school uniform. I mean, these days it's very easy to find the school address even with just the uniform. Once you put it on Google Photo, it will bring up all the information that you need. And yeah, so we have to be very careful about that as well. Um, so the next one is monitoring. I think I've spoken about monitoring online activity for children. I'm not going to like dwell so much on it, but I want to talk about the threats about educating the children. We must train our children to recognize scam and phishing emails. I always tell my son that once you see an email with somebody's name, just click on the name before you even open the email so that you see the full email. If you're not able to see the full email, just put the email directly to junk, and then you know it's a junk email, right? So we must train our children on how to recognize scam and phishing attempts. Tell them not to click on links, suspicious links, because that's where all those cyber bullies and predators, they take them to sites that they can explore, and that's where they begin to groom them. So it's very important that we pay attention. If you need help with recognizing scam and phishing email, there are so many how-to videos on YouTube on how to recognize um, phishing and scam emails. Last but not the least, I would like to talk about strategies for online safety. So I say situational awareness. We must teach children to stay alert in unfamiliar surroundings. Then identify safe adults. So help children recognize trustworthy authority figures like teachers, police officers. If they don't trust you to talk to you, not like they don't trust you, because we as parents, sometimes maybe the way we've engineered the children or the way we were raised, our children may not be comfortable to tell us when somebody made an unwelcome advance advances at them, right? So it's important that you find a friend that you trust, that you feel that they can also trust, so that they can speak, be open and speak to the person. So even if the person says anything to you afterwards, you have to make sure that you protect, the confidentiality, so that your child will be able to trust that adult again. So I think I've spoken about emergency preparedness. So, but it's also important that children know key numbers aside your own emergency numbers and your spouse's number, right? So there should be an emergency contact outside the family contact where the children can, you know, make contact in case they find themselves in uncompromising situation. Yeah. So I spoke earlier about boundaries and consent. It's also important that we instill the importance of personal space and the right to say no, especially to family members. I read on the news recently that 60% of most of these rape cases and molestation are actually perpetrated by family members. I know it's eye-opening, I know it's boggling, but it is what it is. Even the Bible said that the heart of man is desperately wicked. So it's very important that we pay attention. So it's not just about the girl child, because we talk about protecting the girl child from rape. There's also astonishing statistics that mention that boys are actually more prone to rape these days than the girls. I don't know. I will find that statistics and share it later. Um, so what else? What else? I think that's it for me for now. If you have any question, I have to open the floor because I like this conversation to be very interactive. So above all, before I close, because we can do everything in our power as a person of faith or whatever you believe in, I always believe there's higher power. It is very important for us to, you know, expose our children to the word of God, if you're a Christian or whatever faith you are, because there's higher power. Because I always tell people that what would it profit us when we gain everything? They go to Oxbridge or the Ivy League schools and we lose them. So let us be conscious about raising children who also are morally grounded, right? So we can gain everything, gain them academically, gain them, they are everything we want them to be, and then we lose that touch of Christ. So because it's very important, I know that it helped a lot, because sometimes when I feel broken and I know that there's a higher power and I hold on to the word of God, it helps and it keeps me going. Thank you so much. Um, okay. So we'll go to the music interlude while you prepare your questions. I like this to be very interactive. So if you have also other safety measures you like to share, you just raise your hand and we will unmute you so that you can share as well. Yeah. So thank you so much. Yeah. Ebenezer, can you play Favor? Unfortunately, Favor couldn't be here, but I'll read a bit of her profile before we share her music. She's sick, but she sent us her music. So Favored is a rising music sensation, captivating audiences with her unique blend of melodies. Inspired by her personal stories of health challenges and self-inspiration, Favor's soulful voice and thought-provoking lyrics weave stories of love and inspiration. Favored is currently working on an upcoming debut single, promising even more excitement for fans. Please stay tuned for live performances, new music, and exclusive updates. I would encourage you all to connect with her on all social platforms at favored. So all caps, at favored. Yeah, if you search her, you'll find her on this call. Okay, so let's relax and listen to the music, and then we'll take your questions. So please get your questions ready.
Hello everyone, my name is Favored Ajanu. It's a pleasure to be here again in another awesome mental health seminar. I want to say thank you, Face Youth. Thank you, Madam Ify, for having me share another song with you. This song is titled Angel by the Wings, a song sung by Sia. I'll be singing it today to motivate us, to show us that despite anything going hard in our lives, we can do anything. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy. So your wounds, they show. I know you have never felt so alone. No. But hold on, it up, be strong. Hold on until you hear them come. Oh, here they come. Oh, take an angel by the wings, beg her now for anything, ask her for the strength to stay. Take an angel by the wings, time to tell her anything, ask her for one more day. Look up and to the sky, oh, look up and don't ask why. Oh, and just take an angel by the wings, beg her now for anything, ask her for the strength to stay. Take an angel by the wings, time to tell her anything, ask her for one more day. wings. You can't do anything, yeah, no. Thank you everyone, thank you.
Wow. I'm sure everybody's surprised at the transformation. Okay, I'm not if I'm Chime. Wow, so this is great. At Favored, her music is just uplifting and really excellent. So please follow her on Instagram and all her handles at favored double underscore. All caps if you're right. So all caps at favored. So brilliant, very brilliant. So we're down now to your questions. I'm sure you have a lot of questions listed for both Dr. Chudi's excellent presentation and Ife's as well. For me, Dr. Chudi's presentation really stood out for me. I'm a mother of 3 girls, and they are now getting into the teenage phase. So my eldest is 13, going on 14. She'll be 14 next week. So it's everything that Dr. Chudi said was just resonating with me. And having 3 daughters with 3 different personalities, you see that every child is different. Someone put a comment there, and for me, I would say it may be so hard to say, look at, can't you see your sister is doing this, or can't you see your brother is doing this? But you need to be aware that every child is different, every child will develop differently. And when you start talking to a child, making those comparisons, for me, I don't think it will ever have a positive effect. So we need to be really aware of all these things. So thank you very much, Dr. Chudi. For Ife's presentation, one one thing I wanted to add on was on when she talked about internet safety. I would say that it is very hard. Like, even if your child is not, doesn't have a gadget, doesn't have a phone, they go to school, other children have phones, and that exposure is there. They give them links to different things. One thing I found very useful, which I would share, maybe some of you are already aware of it, is children are very, very intelligent these days, and they're very tech savvy. My daughter, I thought I was tech savvy, and then my daughter started showing me things. Maybe I almost felt like the way I felt when I was dealing with my mother and said, no, don't press here. It's not like that. So they are very tech savvy. When you mentioned checking their histories, I just smiled because some of them actually know that they can just go and, take off erase their history, so that when mommy or daddy comes to look at their phones, there's nothing to see, or they leave what they want you to see. So one thing that has really been helpful to me, I don't know how it is in Nigeria in terms of the internet providers, but what I noticed here is that for the providers, so when you talk about the Sky, the Virgin Media, and all of that, you can go into the settings and disable the things you don't want. Like, you can disable pornography, you can disable cheating in exams, you can disable whatever you don't want. So even you, as the parents, cannot even watch some things. So it has been very helpful to me, because I know that no matter, even if someone sends you a link, you cannot, if you try to open it, you just say this site is not allowed. So try to check your internet providers, go on the settings and see what you can disable. We can just try as much as we can, and, pray to God to help us, so that we will raise children that will be right for ourselves and for the society. So I'm going to leave the house open now for your questions. If you want to be unmuted, please just raise your hand and we will unmute you. If you have any questions or any suggestions, please, this is the time to speak now. Okay?
Yeah, thank you so much, Chinwe, for starting the conversation about today's event. First of all, Favor, I don't know if you guys felt what I felt. Music is one of the best therapies you can have for every age group. When Favor was performing, I felt like, who is this? Who is this artist? Why is she not on the bigger stage? Like, this is a raw talent in so many ramifications. And this is a young girl I've actually chronicled, with her own struggles, health-wise. But She's flipped her struggles into strength. So when you listen to her music, it's a music that comes from a very deep place. You see, you can have the worst pain out there. Your pain might be 10 over 10. Your pain might be physical pain, emotional pain, whatever kind of pain. And music can actually match that pain. Favor has some health challenges that ordinarily for some youths, they will just focus on that. They will magnify those challenges. But out of that pain came a very big talent that was already deposited in her. So just imagine yourself forgetting all the challenges and all the worries you have this afternoon, and you allow that music to permeate into you. You're going to feel better. So music is also very therapeutic to our kids, to our children at all levels. There are some kids, that probably might be 3 months, and you will see them responding to music, and you'll be wondering, how are they connecting? Music can make it better. Music plays a key role in mental health management. Depression, anxiety, social withdrawal, bipolar condition, music will make it better. So always remember, when you're faced with challenges, when you're faced with struggle, you can flip that struggle into strength. You can flip those challenges into change. You can actually choose how you respond to things that will put stress on you. So Favor, great job. What I want you to do, I want to actually, share your story and, like this powerful performance on all my handles. So please subsequently send me the links to, your performance and all that. And I love music. So I want to be part of, the people that will help promote and put you where you belong to. And I wish you all the best. Okay. So do we have any questions? You can participate by raising your hand. We can give you audience. You can use your audio. You can use your video. You can ask your questions. So please, go ahead.
I would like to add to Chinwe. I don't know. You know what Chinwe said about parental control? I actually forgot to mention that. It's very important that as parents that we're intentional about how we manage these Gen Zs or Generation Alpha, as a matter of fact, all of them, because they are way ahead of us, right? So there are so many parental control apps. If you ask me, I can recommend a few. There are some that are free and there are some that you have to pay for. Actually, FACEYOUTH is currently developing one so that we can subsidize it for parents that cannot afford it. Because it's very important that we learn how to protect the children, because whether we like it or not, they are children, and children will be children. They will explore. So even when you put they control, like she said, at home, they will go out. There are so many free internet outside these days, especially in the developed world like US and the UK. You can practically go anywhere, airport, shopping mall, and you connect. And the children will go out there and, connect and watch any link that's sent to them. So it's important that we have the parental control apps on their gadgets as well as our own gadget, because most of these gadgets, when you install it, you will be able to monitor them, right? Their activities and usage. So this is topic for another day, and this is something that we're going to share, but we're currently developing a parental control app that will be subsidized, because I think there's one I'm using, but I pay for the subscription and it's about £40 per annum, which will be very expensive for parents in, developing world, or people that may not be able to, afford it. So we are creating on something that will be more affordable. Yeah, so that's my little chip. Another thing I forgot to mention is also the risk of, I had it on my slide, but I don't know how I missed that as well. So bathroom safety. I know that I was going to speak about it because most of us as parents, especially parents with older children, You ask your 12 or 14-year-old to accompany your younger child. We also a viral video on TikTok. I think I'm going to share it at some point. I was going to, comment on it and share it about how a 14-year-old accompanied her younger sister to the bathroom. And while the mom was shopping and thought that she was in a scene, like with her older sibling, right? The older sibling actually thought that the child ran off the bathroom to join the mom. Unknowingly to her, she was intercepted by a stranger who took her to another place. So by the time they used, fortunately for her, I think she had a tracker or something. I don't know how she was able to find the child, maybe about 5 miles away from that gas station. And then by the time she saw the child, they had changed her clothes and they were about to shave her hair. I mean, it was the most traumatic thing I saw online in the past few days. So we have to be very intentional and pay attention as well. So I always tell parents to follow your children to the bathroom so you can even check behind the doors that all these people are not, especially when we have this day of LGBTQ. So you have people that are cross, trans, that are in the bathroom, and they're all in the female bathroom, and you feel, oh, it's all female in the bathroom. So if you are a woman or if you're a man, you can go to disabled toilet or something so that you can take your younger children to the bathroom. Yeah, that's all I want to ask. That's all I want to add. Yeah. We're open to Q&A now. And if you have any, I like to make this interactive because that's the whole point, right? So we need to create this space so that anybody can speak about, be free to speak about any issues. So this is Q&A. If you have any questions for Dr. Chudi, please go ahead and shoot.
Yeah, so before the questions, I also want to highlight the need to start the conversations with your kids, depending on their age. So when Chinua mentioned a couple of the sites you can disable, she mentioned pornography. Now, whether you like it or not, the biggest industry, the most rewarding industry right now as we talk is actually pornography. And it's very, very easy to access for anybody. So I want you to graduate from thinking if they will come across it to assumption that they probably might have come across it. Some kids, and the people we call kids might actually have developed so many coping mechanisms. Like a kid at 13, it's already an adult. They all have friends. She or he might have, peers and people, student colleagues she talks to or he talks to. So at some point, they might have started having conversation about sex and all that. Some might already be consuming it. Some might already be victims. And you might think, oh, your kid is still that innocent kid, especially if you're thinking about how you grew up. And if you're comparing yourself to the society, to the world they are living in now, you're gonna make a very big mistake. So the assumption, which you have to work on, is to open up that line of conversation. So a kid, a boy, a girl at 13 obviously has started her menstruation. So you have to meet her at that point to explain the reproductive system. I happen to have my own teaching model here. Explain what happens to a woman, explain what's going on with the breast, explain what happens when a woman bleeds every month. Talk about the sexual, concept, what actually is sex, how they can actually empower themselves with their friendships. Majority of them might have boy and girl friends, which, there is absolutely nothing wrong in having friends. It's just to define your boundaries. So if you don't talk about this, and if you assume, oh, you've blocked here and there, they are no longer doing this, they might have gone advanced. They are consuming all this. Some of all these things are infused into the audio, the videos, the movies they watch. It's pretty much out there. So the best way we can protect our own, we can protect our kids, our girls, our boys, is to actually start treating them like adults they are. So that if they come across all those stuff, if they come across people they might think they like, because at some point they're going to like people, people are going to like them, they're going to have their boy girlfriends. But you have to inculcate in them the ability to set their boundaries, the do's, the don'ts, even when they are in relationship, the ability to have informed consent, the ability to be mindful, because this is an era they consume a lot of drinks, substance abuse and all that, which you might not really know. Your kid might be abusing drugs. Your kid might be doing drinks in your own immediate environment, in plain sight, and you wouldn't even know. Probably when they go into their room, they communicate, they might tell you they are sleeping and you don't even know what they are doing. They are consuming all this. So we have to meet them at that point of what they are currently doing without assuming, oh, you still my innocent, kid. But something has happened to her body. She's developed breast. She's seen her menses. People appreciate her. The hormones are all over the place. The same thing happens to the guys. So we have to start that conversation. There is absolutely no time you're going to wait, because by the time you will think they might have been of age, it might be too late. So many of them might be prone to teenage pregnancy, or many of them might, impregnate other kids, or they might pick up sexually transmitted infection. So we really need to start that conversation. That's what I wanted to contribute. So the floor is open. Please quickly ask your questions, and we can all learn and go or contribute.
Yeah. Any questions, please? Or if you don't want to speak, you can put your questions in the chat box and I can read it out, please. There's so much that has been said. There's no way all of you will tell me you don't have questions or comments, something to add to this very, very important discussion. Even if you don't have children, you have little nieces, nephews, so you should have something to share.
Okay, if they're not sharing, then I'm gonna start calling names, because you came
Exactly.
here.
Good.
So I'm gonna go to Ebenezer. Unmute yourself. Please make your own contribution. After Ebenezer, Alan, you should be the next. So Ebenezer, please contribute. I know you're a newly married guy, and at some point you will start having kids.
Ebenezer, over to you. We're waiting.
Hello.
1 minute.
Okay. Hello, good evening. Okay.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, you go ahead.
So it's an interesting topic, and these things happen every day. We see it online, we see the news. So, like Dr. Trudy said, I think it's high time we started having conversations with the young ones and not assume that they are very young and they don't know anything. Because if they have a phone and they have internet, even though you do parent blocking and those stuff, there's always a way to navigate it. And they may come across some unpleasant content. So the earlier you assume that they're probably already exposed to those things, or they'll be exposed to it, and start having those conversations from today, the better. If you have kids, for your children, or maybe for your nieces and nephews, or even maybe your friends' kids, you can have that conversation and start to handle the matter already before it gets out of hand. Because if they're exposed to such things and they stay on it for a long time, and you are assuming that they are holy, they are good, and all that stuff, in 2, 3, 5 years, it becomes an addiction, a bigger issue that could have been handled from day one. So let us thank you, Dr. Chudi. Thank you, Madam Ifi, Madam Shinwe, for the words. They make a lot of sense. For my end, I will have discussions with my brothers and sisters concerning their kids, and the ones that are close to me, I will have some discussions with them. And when I have children as well, I will have all these things in mind. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ebenezer. Abby, you have a question. Feel free. Do you want to unmute yourself? Go ahead, please.
Hi, thanks so much, Dr. Chizzy and Ify for putting this together. I actually work with teenagers, and I do have teenagers myself. Now, there are so many things. Obviously, when you work with teenagers, you hear, you see, a lot of things. Now, there was a teenager who came to me and said that he'd been struggling with pornography. Now, a couple of them, obviously, if it's not pornography, it's alcohol. If it's not that, they've probably been sexually active. If a child comes to you, with an issue like that, obviously it means that they're repentant and they probably don't want to go back doing it. How do you help a child like that so that they don't go back to doing those things?
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. I actually love the fact that you're sharing this because, like I was explaining when I gave my presentation, if you don't create a healthy space, if you don't create a safe space, you will never know nothing. Even that your trusted daughter, your trusted son, your best student, we have to understand that the era we are living in is different. And we have to understand different developmental milestones for individuals. When a young girl or a young boy goes into adolescent stage, there are natural physiologic changes that happen in their body under the control of hormones. So as they are developing the breast, the sexual organs, the vagina, the penis, developing pubic hairs, there are definite role that those hormones are going to play. That's the time they will start noticing the opposite sex. People will be talking to them. People will be asking them out and all that. That's all generational shift. It's physiological. It's natural. Now, this is where you will come in to explain what's going on so they will understand, because every action has consequences. Now, the fact you were able to have this kid come to you means he or she trusted you. I don't know if you're the person that found out or they came to you. So you've already created that safe space. And you have to understand that anybody talking to you is talking to you in trust. Now, the conventional Nigerian mother or the Nigerian lady you be, the first thing is to go spiritual, right? You start invoking and praying and giving Bible verses. They are okay. They are all the spiritual aspect of approaching it. But there's one thing you must do: confidentiality. Our kids also have right. They have their confidentiality. So if she's telling you this struggle in confidence, you have to also treat in confidence. So you don't have to be overtly, too, moved to go and start divulging whatever she told you into confidence, even with the parents and all that. You have to have an informed conversation, understanding the extent. So at that point, you're the resource person, you're the therapist at your own level of training. So this is where professional development will come in, because if you have higher knowledge of how you can handle all this, you can actually address this with the kid at that point before you can escalate or before you can refer. So what you have to do is to have that meaningful conversation in that safe space so they can run whatever their struggles are, so they can actually give you an idea of how it started. So it's called contact tracing. So nothing happens in a vacuum. So for that kid to be exposed to the pornography, how did it happen? How did it start? Is it the friend she's hanging out? Is there an adult that introduced, the pornography? Because guess what? Most people that go through pornography or are exposed to pornography actually practice it. There are so many secondary, factors and secondary sequelae, which we call consequences, that happen when people are exposed. Because when you're exposed to all those things, your sensory cells, your whole body and everything will be activated. And that's the point they are so prone to going into sex. And sex, it's for adults. It's for mature people. It's not just for anybody. They can easily go there. And unfortunately, when they start, they can't stop, because there is this feedback, dopaminergic, good feeling effect that people derive when they go into all this. So they always look at the rewards. They don't look at the consequences. So what you need to do, you have to have meaningful conversation with this kid. You have to guarantee her confidence, her trust, and you have to both agree that you're going to work on it. And you have to start developing approaches on how you can help to curb that. You can pray, you can recommend spiritual route, but you have to deal with the immediate thing by giving her steps on what she can do. Actually digging in. You need to dig in to know the origin, how it started, whether it's become a habit, whether it's now an addiction. And over time, when you're done doing this, then you have to go back and seek her consent for further management, probably through a therapist, probably through a counselor, someone that is professionally trained. So the last part Probably at some point, if you keep struggling, then at some point you might want to get the parents involved. But you shouldn't escalate. You shouldn't complicate an already complicated thing. So you have to follow that stepwise approach. And you don't have to be judgmental. You don't have to be dismissive. You don't have to start calling names. You don't have to start seeing that person differently, because guess what? The person that told you about her problem is way, way, way better than the people that are not talking to you. There are so many kids that go to church, they do everything right, but behind the scenes, they are going through a lot. So the fact that this kid came up is actually a kid that needs help, is actually a kid that is ahead of time, is a kid we can salvage and make better. So that's what I would suggest. Very great question. Thank you.
Yes,
so
thank you
Abby,
very
do you have a follow-up question to that? Hello?
Abby, are you happy with the response, or do you have a follow-up question?
Okay, let's give another person an opportunity. What
I don't know
about
if
Grace?
she's...
Grace, can you unmute yourself and contribute, please?
Okay, she needs to... Let me unmute her. So, please.
Okay, okay.
Abby, you can speak.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Chidi. It's very informative and very useful advice. And I would definitely see how I can obviously get more to be better informed as to know what to do, because sometimes it can be very overwhelming and you're at a loss as to what to do with the situation. I actually have two kids who come to me with that, and honestly, I really didn't know what to do. So, but thank you.
You can leverage on FACEYOUTH. We can all collaborate and work with you. But one thing I don't want you to do is to go complicated. I hope you haven't told another person that you didn't get their consent to talk to. How
Oh
old are
no.
these kids?
Oh no, I didn't.
How old are the kids?
One is about 16.
Oh, come on. And the other one?
And the other one is, I think, 21 now.
Okay, so they're all, mini adults. So
Yes.
you really need to be very, very careful how you can work together with them with their consent, and you can chronicle their progress. And trust me, they will be more responsible the way they will go further to engage in, sexual activity by the time you've done this professionally. So that's what you need to do. Okay, very important.
Thank you so much.
All right. So we have Alan Law. Do you have any contribution? Alan, you can unmute yourself. Okay, what about...
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
go ahead.
unmuted. Yeah, up to this point, it's a bit difficult for me to think of what to say. I would go ahead and say that I personally do not have any children of my own. I'm not a parent. But I joined this meeting because I was very interested in hearing other people's views about the topic of parenting. Because I'm kind of trying to run a business that has something to do with like education, parenting, actually, what how parents approach like teaching their children things, could be anything, like from when they're born to all the way to graduating from school, that sort of thing. Um, yeah, I come from like a Chinese background, so I'm used to um, a very different sort of like parenting environments compared to most people here in the UK. I'll be honest and say that most Chinese parents are kind of known for being quite strict with their children. Um, yeah, some of it I'd say is probably a good thing. But maybe sometimes it can be a bit too much as well. Definitely that I think at a certain point you should just be fine with letting your children think for themselves. But uh, until they've reached that point, you will need to like just guide them properly. yeah, like you've talked about all the great things that I personally agree with, like how you gain, well, it's very important for both child and parents to have incredibly good levels of trust, because there's a lot of people out there that might appear on the surface to be a good person, but might have some like malicious intent behind them, because people are capable of lying, and that's particularly true on the internet as well.
Sure.
Yeah, it's very scary how much technology has evolved. It's great that we have things like the internet, but we got to be aware of the changes. Like people talk about things like AI. Yeah, like yeah, there's a lot of fake imagery, which is very harmful to children, because it might look incredibly realistic, but it's actually fake. And yeah, that's very worrying, I feel. But yeah, everyone has to keep learning, and um, yeah, both parent and child will learn together, and hopefully adapt to any new technology situations, that sort of thing. I think it's great what you're all trying to do. I just hope that some of the things I've said make some sort of positive contribution, at
Yeah, yeah.
least.
Thank you so much, Alan. You've raised
Yeah.
very, very important, additions to our conversation this afternoon, and they are very
Yes.
important. Guess what? You're probably, you have all the skills you need when you eventually have kids and become a parent, because you're well grounded and you're bringing the Chinese perspective, which at some point has similarities with, orientation of so many developing countries. So how we are raised in developing countries is not exactly how we are raising our kids, because it's a different world. And in Chinese, you brought your own perspective. So at some point, our kids are going to take responsibility, but our duty is to help them to make those informed, important decisions, which can affect the totality of them down the road. So thank you so much. I appreciate your contribution.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So the next person, do we have any other person that want to contribute? I'll keep calling names if we don't have. Uche Noel, can you please unmute yourself? After you, Engineer Mecca, then Grace, then Teresa, then Christiana, and Praise. Guys, please, let's make this interactive before we go.
Okay. My name is Dr. Uche O. Martins. I happen to be a doctor of public health. And actually, I have heard so much about mental health. And I believe that the kids must be educated to know about mindfulness. Because I tell my kids to be mindful and to be conscious of where they are. So that actually helps them to behave better and to have a better mental outlook when they become mindful and conscious of where they are. And I start in time to tell them that life is about to get serious. I start a good time to teach them those things they need to know, those basic things that are very important, that is useful, that they will need to know to carry on with life, both in school and otherwise. So I believe it should be a situation where you educate your kids in good time. That will help them to understand in good time that that it's a gradual thing, and that life should be taken slowly and gradually, and that they should always call for help Whenever they feel frustrated, they should talk to daddy, they should talk to mommy, they should talk to their teacher. Those people they need to talk to, those people they need to listen to that will advise them. I believe all these things will help them to maintain a good mental health stability.
Yeah, thank you so much, Uche. You are actually spot on all your suggestions. And that's where the safe space, comes into play, the understanding, the collaboration, the giving them that opportunity to share their feelings, because if they bottle it up, there is nothing you can do about it. So if they don't feel comfortable, if they don't have trust in you, they might actually tell you nothing. They might actually be talking to people behind you. So it might be an auntie, it might be a cousin, it might be anybody that is not within that nuclear family. But guess what? The safest space for the kids is actually their two parents. Unfortunately, even in these developed countries, there are even some kids that are abused by either their mother or their father. If you guys were watching CNN, there was one lady that got raped by the father, at the age of 12, and, it was more like a habitual thing. So there are so many strange things that happen. But you will need to create that safe space for them to have that meaningful conversation. And that way they can build their confidence, they can have informed decisions as they are transitioning into adults. Because there are some parents that create, this good feeling that life is all bed of roses for their kids. So the moment their kids begin to struggle, when they have their independence, they begin to have problems. There are so many kids that never had any need to manage their responsibilities. Then suddenly they go to school, they go to high school, they are there by themselves, and they begin to struggle. So that when you create that opportunity to have a continuation of talk, by the time they're transitioning, they will become a better version of who you want them to become. And of course, the time will come when they will take their decisions. For example, when they're making their friends, when they are saying yes or no, you're not going to be there. But when they want to make those decisions, they will remember the conversations you had with them, and they will look at the repercussions, the consequences of their decisions. So, Uche, thank you so much for that contribution. I really appreciate that. Chinwe, do you have anything to contribute?
Yes, Dr. Chidi, there's a question for you from Alexander. The question goes, what is the role of a primary school teacher in helping people's mental health? He or she, Alexander, I guess is the guy. He says, I'm a teacher in Nigeria.
Okay, so here's the deal. Different stroke for different folks, right? Now, as a teacher, when I started my presentation, I actually acknowledged teachers because teaching is the most difficult job out there. So imagine the level of teachings you give to your own kids. Then you go out there, you're teaching other people's kids with different personalities and all that. So it's a skill you have to acquire. It's something you have to over time develop, because if you don't have a couple of qualities, you can't be a good teacher. Now, depending on the curriculum and the location and the country where you find yourself as a teacher. So I know for sure that in America here, different levels of education have different levels of people that are actually in the school. So I know for sure that even elementary level, they have counselors, they have professionals that deal on issues that bother students. So there are people that are professionally trained in childhood development that will handle that. Unfortunately, if you're a teacher in Nigeria, the principal, the school headmaster or headmistress might not have that in their curriculum. The Ministry of Education might not have that in curriculum. You might actually have a clash, because over there, parents are very protective of their kids. Most times they don't even, allow, teachers to intervene. Just like quite unlike when we were growing up, a teacher can flog the hell out of you and flog sense into you, and you will still turn out fine. But lately, because of the evolution of the society we find ourselves, parents tend to be overtly too protective of their kids. So you will see yourself limited in ability to carry out your role. But you can approach things differently from what we are teaching you now. So as a teacher, you can actually identify the personalities, the behavioral issues, the kids that are struggling, and you meet them in their own space. For example, if you have 20 kids in your class, I'm sure you know the kids who probably give the first position, the third position, and I'm sure the kid that probably comes last in that class, you probably think that that kid is not going to amount to nothing. It's all part of mental health. So you don't go classifying and branding kids because of their academic position. So you don't go preferring the kids that are coming first, second, third. then you don't have value for the kid that actually come last. We have to dig in further to understand why that kid exposed to some educational material, some academic material is still not doing well. So you have to dig in further to come from bottom up. So in your class, the kids that are not performing better academic-wise, you have to meet them and figure out how you can help them better, without necessarily not focusing on the kids that are performing better and you think they're going to be the ones that will turn out good. Guess what? If you chronicle the people that went to school with you, nursery, primary, secondary, somehow life turns out differently for everybody. So it's not all the people that had distinction, that had first class, that came first in school that will actually turn first in the society. Life can flip anytime. The first can easily be the last can easily be the first. So it's ability to meet each kid at their needs. So there are some kids that might present with temper tantrum. There are kids that might have anxiety problems. They might be withdrawn. They might be carrying the problems they have from their home to school. And it's definitely going to affect their performance. And also you have to be an advocate for your kids. So when you go for parent-teachers association, or when you guys meet with the principal or the headmistress or the headmasters, you have to present your own understanding of your kids. Because if you understand those individual 20 kids, you can meet them at their individual place they are struggling, and you can help them to bring out the best in them. Unfortunately, if you're in Nigeria, we are very good in blaming, shaming, talking down, branding, stigmatizing students, calling their names, even using words to tell them they cannot amount to nothing. And when you do that, you're damaging that kid, and it's for life. So that's what I will contribute to that.
Very good, and very spot on. Thank you very much, Dr. Judy. There's another question. Apologies, Choma, we somehow missed this question, but it was earlier on. And the question goes, how do you help a child or a teenager or an adult, as the case may be, who is already pre-exposed to the internet evils, especially pornography? I know you touched on this a little, but you can elaborate more for Choma.
Okay, well, like I mentioned, it's always good to use history. So first of all, you have to create that talking safe space, and you have to define your relationship with that kid. So if that kid is your daughter, if that kid is your son, you have to have a very meaningful adult conversation with them, depending on their age. If the kid is a minor, so a minor means that probably below 10 and all that, you have to devise your message to be spot on. So you definitely have to start with education. You have to explain the female reproductive system. You have to explain the male reproductive system. You have to call penis by penis. You have to call the vagina by the name. You don't have to use any other name. You don't have to tell them, oh, if a man touches you, all those old, mama stories that our parents told us when we were growing up. It's no longer valid. You have to teach them by using those things because they're already exposed. They're actually more experienced than you. So when you explain all this, and the consequences of their actions, and you also, whether you like it or not, this tough conversation, you have to teach them contraceptives, because if they are already having sex, if they are already indulging in the things you're trying to prevent, at that point, what you're looking at is mitigation. So how will they indulge in it with informed decisions so they won't come down with pregnancy or sexually transmitted infections because they're already doing it? So there are so many conversations you can have with them at different levels of their different, participation. So depending on how far they've gone or how deeply rooted they are in that particular addiction, you have to meet them there. But you have to have truthful, meaningful, trusted conversation, which is going to be an ongoing thing. It's not a quick fix. It's not a conversation you just have one time and you're going to achieve success. No, you have to, dig in. You have to, dig in, get a history, talk about the consequences, chronicle the likely complications, the likely adverse effect, how it will affect their academics, how it will affect their families, how it will affect their personality, how to identify things. Then you have to see them as a friend while at the same time playing the role of a parent. The problem is most parents see their kids like strangers. They're not really friends. But there are also some parents that see their kids as friends, and when you open that friendship door, you will lose that control as a parent. So it's a kind of a 50-50 thing, a little bit of friendship, a little bit of parenting, so that they won't see you like you guys are mates. And of course, when that happens, you've lost that child, and before you know it, the child is going to be badly, exposed to all the ills and vices out there. And I'll tell you this, Possibility that your teenagers are currently consuming pornography is almost 99.9%. They've been exposed to that because the first time we as adults had an opportunity to all this, if we all tell ourselves the truth, the first time we got exposed to pornography, drinking, smoking, asking women and men out, probably when we were in secondary school, especially if you were in boarding school. That's when you have that conversation. And there's a way that those conversations will come up. If your kid is not the sociable type, they can delineate the kid. So there's a way that the current, crop of students we have will make kids that have good morals to feel that, oh, I'm actually the odd person out. So they can ostracize that kid, they can stigmatize that kid, they can actually make the kid to even be suicidal, to feel they are left out. So it's the ability to teach that kid, the ability to remember, dwell on self-care, self-confidence, stand their ground, make sure that whatever decisions they're taking, they are well more aware of it. Because at some point, depending on the essence of the pornography they're consuming, by the time they start having their relationship, there are one or few bits they can gain from there, but they have to be adult enough to handle the consequences, to break that addiction cycle. Because unfortunately, if they begin to consume those pornography and it becomes an addiction, they can run it just like the way they're eating their food. And most of them, by the time they're running the pornography, they're actually practicing it. So some kids will go through this pornography and they actually participate in all those activities that go on in those pornography. So that's when they will start having their girl, boy, using toys and all that. At the stage, they cannot handle it because they are not able to handle adult relationships at those stage. So it's still gonna be, down to having those meaningful conversations. Very, very important. So please, I want us to work from the premise that our kids are already exposed to this. I don't want you seeing that because you are very protective. Oh, my daughter, my son is this. It's not true. You just don't know. And when you hear about other people's kids, don't go there heaping condemnations and thinking you're isolated. You're not. We're all living in the same world. We're all living in a broken world. The society is so badly broken. Like when we talk about sexual orientation and all that, there are so many people that when you see them, you think they are girls, meanwhile they are boys, and so many things going on in our world. These are all the things that our kids are going to deal with. So you have to have that conversation from day one. You have to make sure you identify with them. You have to make sure the identity is well defined. You have to make sure you inculcate in them self-confidence. Everything starts from that self-confidence. Because guess what? Someone is going to talk to them. Someone is going to appreciate them. Someone is going to tell them you're beautiful. Someone is going to tell them you're handsome. Someone is going to, use those things to placate them. You have to create such a safe space that no matter what anybody does there, they will always come back home and run it by you. And you don't have to be that, dismissive kind of mother or father that whatever your kid tells you, you don't even listen to them. Oh, don't go, or you just use one monotonous response. Oh, don't go there. Oh, don't. When you keep telling them, don't, they're not going to confide in you. And when they make those mistakes, you're not going to know. When they go for their first sexual encounter, when they lose their virginity and all that, you're not going to know. And you might be able to bear the consequences when they become pregnant or when they get exposed to sexually transmitted infections. And we have to understand that once it happens, it begins to be complicated. So if a kid picks a sexually transmitted infection like gonorrhea or chlamydia, which can be comfortably treated within 2 weeks with antibiotics, if that kid is not in a safe space to have that conversation, they're not going to tell you. And some of them will not present with symptoms. So by the time they actually have relationships, they marry, those sexually transmitted infections that were not properly treated will damage their organs. So that's when you begin to see kids that will start having infertility problems simply because they had untreated gonorrhea or chlamydia that damaged their tubes or caused adhesions. Or they went for illegal abortion because they couldn't tell you and they're in school, it will affect their academics, and they go about doing illegal abortion, which can damage their womb, which can cause a lot of problems. So this is the world we are living in. The earlier you understand that we are all in this mess together, then the better. So you have to actively be involved. You don't have to be a disconnected parent. You don't have to be a parent that doesn't even know what's going on. You don't have to be very strict. You have to be in the middle. You have to have a little bit of strictness, then a little bit of liberalism and openness so that you can play in the same field where they're playing. Of course, you have to be ahead on time because guess what? They're already ahead of you. No matter how you try, once your kid is 7, that kid is ahead of you. If that kid has a device in his hands, he can sell you anytime. So you're playing catch up. So that's what I will tell you.
Oh my God, Dr. Trudy, I was just listening to you and I was like, oh my world, oh my world. The information that you have given to us is it's just priceless. It's on a platter of gold and it is good. It is good. Someone just put a comment here. Oh my God, Dr. Trudy, you are too good and far too kind. Thank you so much. I'm gonna read a couple of comments from so Christina says, thank you, Dr. Trudy, for that information to teachers. They all need to be trained to know how to spot children who need support with their mental health. Absolutely. And then Ebenezer says, internet restriction and parental restriction on phones and internet service providers are good practices. But note that these restrictions can be easily bypassed using free VPN softwares. And these are easily accessible on Play Store or App Store. I didn't even know that. So relying on internet and parental restrictions is a good start, but it is not enough. That is as far as kids have a phone or a tablet with internet connection, the risk of viewing inappropriate content is very high. But with proper open conversations and counseling, which is what Dr. Judy has been saying, many of these issues can be prevented in time. Yes, that is absolutely correct. So there's a lot of information that we have received today, and I would like to say thank you very much, Dr. Judy. It has once it comes to children, my eardrums, everything is up because I have them, they're teenagers, and even if you don't have children now, this information, put it in your head because before you open, if you're 25, 26, before you know what's happening, you're married, you're having children, time is going so fast. I still remember like Ify and I, when we were single and enjoying our lives in Schlumberger then many years ago, and look at us now with children. So time goes so fast. So don't think that, oh, this conversation, it's not for me. It is for you. And times are changing, but this information that we've received today, please do not forget it. Put down notes. I have a lot of notes that I took as Dr. Judy was speaking. So thank you very much. I know that time is fast spent. I don't know if anyone has any question. I'll just look through briefly to see. May God help parents. Amen. I'll say big amen to that.
Yeah, and
Internet.
also Chinwe, I
Yeah.
want to contribute further.
Okay.
And I want us to be very practical. And I'm talking to Nigerians. Majority of us are Nigerians. You see, God is good and all the time. But it's not everything you will go spiritual on. You can do your prayers, you can do your spiritual things, you can do your fasting, you can do your prayers, but that's not just what you need to do. God can still take care of us, but there are certain things we need to do for ourselves. You have to understand that parenting is a responsibility. Even when that kid is married and leaves your house, it's still your kid. There are still so many room for you to meet that kid halfway. Now you have to learn the power of saying no. But when you say no from a place of love, a place of care, a place of understanding. You don't have to be like a no, no solid no. You have to say no with some good explanation. For example, we all have teenagers. And one of the common things that teenagers want to do is to hang out. And hanging out is no longer physical. They hang out in so many spaces. And there are so many people that invade their spaces. There are so many pedophiles that pretend to be who they are not. They can easily use anybody's picture and they can easily claim who they are not. And they can lure our kids. If you're in America or UK, if you know the number of kids that go missing on a daily basis, if you know the number of heinous crimes that are committed, among kids, if you know, in my experience in maternal health, one of the things that actually gives me headache, it's the number of ladies that got raped. It will surprise you that for every 10 people that signed up for subscription with me, at least 8 got raped growing up. And they never told anybody. They bottled it up. They dealt with all these things. They became adults and they start having their kids. So they don't have that empowerment to forgive themselves. So they grow with that guilt and they carry the guilt all around. Now, what could have been done differently when they were growing up? If they had access to sexual education, There are certain places they went that they shouldn't have gone. There are certain behaviors they exhibited when they were in university they would have done differently. Majority of them were raised by people that claim to like them or people that were caught and all that. So we're living in a different era. So one area I want to encourage you to play more role and pay more attention. You see, your girls will definitely want to go for sleepover. Your boys will definitely want to go for hangout. Trust me, as much as possible, discourage sleepovers. As much as possible, with reasons. You see all those birthday parties that go late in the night and all that. These kids are experimenting with alcohol, with smoking, despite the fact they are not even qualified to do that. They're doing all that. And when a kid's brain, even adult, when an adult brain is handling alcohol and smoking and doing all that, there are so many things you won't even remember you indulge in until all those alcohol leaves your system. So when it distorts their reasoning, their decision making, they can go for sleepover, and the place they're having their sleepover, the man in that house, the boys in that house, the siblings in that house, whoever in that house can transform that sleepover into an orgy, into so many things. They can be raped, they can be abused, and you don't know. So it's okay to say no. It's okay to start from day one to have a policy that there is no sleepover in my home. It's okay to be that parent that while they are still with you, you can set standards so that when they go to university, when they go to colleges, they're going to have so many people that will invite them for parties in the late and all that. That's the origin of having all these kids that go missing. So when you set that boundary, when you set that standard, when they become mini adults, when they go to universities, when they go to places they will have the decisions by themselves, they will know how to still prioritize the important things while still engaging in their social things. Because guess what? No matter how beautiful and intelligent your kid, your boy, or your girl will be, at some point they're going to have relationships and we will want them to start their families. If they don't have that social capital, if they don't have that social aspect of them, if they're just all about kids going to church and whatever, they're going to be in your home. They're not going to have relationships. They're not going to marry. And they will definitely develop menopause. And when that happens, you have another problem at home. You have a very sad kid that will probably think you restricted them. Or before you know, you start looking for people that will come and marry them. Meanwhile, those people that are marrying them because of their profession, not because they understand them. So at some point, we have to have those kids take care of themselves, make decisions, but the decision has to come from what you inculcated in them. So if you have a kid that keeps submitting the request to go on sleepover and all that, there are so many evil things that happen during those sleepovers. Even the people they claim to know, they might be forming their, sexual groups and, experimenting because our kids need attachment. They want to belong. They want to feel appreciated. Like some of the girls might isolate them when they start thinking they're not doing what they're doing. They will start making them to feel isolated in school. And one of the things that can break any kid is being isolated. Even as an adult, if you are in a WhatsApp group and you guys are 20 and 19 of them are talking, they're excluding you, you're going to feel isolated. You're going to feel like something is wrong with you. This is the era we are dealing with. So learn how to say no. Learn how to give reasons. Learn how to explain the reason why you're saying no. Learn how to talk about the consequences of all the actions. Learn how to talk about sexual consequences, sexually transmitted infections, teenage pregnancies, consequences. For example, there are some tough situations we're going to find ourselves. So assuming your 21-year-old girl, suddenly, you started noticing changes in her body, and probably if you guys are close, she will tell you, oh, Mommy, I missed my period. And you're not that, incisive to know that something is going on. And you never taught your girl contraceptives. You assume, oh, whatever you're teaching her, the church you're taking her to, she's imbibing it. Meanwhile, she's already making love. Now, I want to warn you, there are some girls that will easily become pregnant even without penetrative sex. Because at the stage they are experimenting, at the stage they're having their boyfriends and they're kissing and doing all those stuff, any fluid that comes out from the penis can get a lady pregnant if they have bodily contact. So some of them will present, oh, my daughter is a virgin, or they will be telling you, Mommy, I'm a virgin and stuff. But there has been a mixture of the semen and the vagina, and they got pregnant. So that's the origin of pregnant virgins. So that when you teach them, when you explain the need for contraception, when you explain the need for condom and all that, which some people will, oh, are you teaching them how to use condom? That means you're encouraging them to have sex. No. There are certain things that will happen when it will happen. So the idea is before it happens, are they well informed? Are they well equipped to protect themselves? Do they have the power to say no? There are so many of them that might have boyfriends. The only reason that boyfriend is hanging around them is to sleep with them. But when you empower them with the power to say no, they can still be doing that boy and girlfriend relationship, and they can still, say no when it comes to sexual approaches until they are well informed to know the consequences. And at the end of the day, the consequences will affect their education. It will affect the family. And for some of us from Nigerian origin, we always want to present our family as holier than thou. So even when your kid becomes pregnant, you will quickly go to a place they will do abortion for them because you want to be seen in the church tomorrow as the holy, person that will go to Christ's feet at any time. You have to deal with your realities. So the power to say no when the need comes. And personally, I'm recommending no sleepover. Personally, trust me, personally, even among cousins, look, whatever I'm telling you now, I'm telling you from an informed place. I'm telling you based on what I know. We are living in a very crazy world. Even that your kid's room, you don't know. You just don't know what's going on in that room. You don't know the text messages they're exchanging. You don't know what they are watching. You just don't know. There are so many unknowns. So the ones you know, the ones within your jurisdiction, you consolidate on that. And whatever you're giving them, you have to give it from a place of TLC, tender loving care. You have to be diplomatic. You have to keep talking. There are some days they will frustrate you. There are some days you will feel like spanking the hell out of them. There are some days you will just feel like what's going on. There are some days you feel overwhelmed, but don't give up because whatever you're doing now will manifest down the road. Thank you.
Ooh, Dr. Chidi, it's almost as if we shouldn't let you go because you just keep it coming. You just keep it coming. Thank you. Thank you very, very much for all the information, all the words of advice, sleepovers. Oh my God, as you just talked about it. Even yesterday, my daughter was still asking for a sleepover, and I'm like, no sleepovers, no sleepovers. It's really hard with these children, but we as parents, we just have to be on top of things. And like Dr. Trudy said, we have to try to find that middle ground. So you're not too strict and you're not too friendly that you cannot enforce, what you need to enforce as a parent. So thank you so much. I know we're running out of time and I see some people already leaving the chat group, but I would say this has been a very, very informative and very helpful session to me. And I'm sure to a lot of people, or I'll say everyone who has joined today. So I'd like to say a very big thank you. At this junction, if there's no other question, I would be rounding up. Dr. Trudy, do you want to say any last few words before we round up?
Yeah, well, we have to sometimes give ourselves some kudos and accolades. We are doing a great job. The fact you attended this event means you actually, you matter and you love your kids and you don't have to give up, especially as they've gone back to school. You have to understand that the transition is going to be individualized. So you can have 3 kids. Their transition will be in 3 different ways. So you have to meet them halfway. Never compare your kids. Never judge anybody. Never use the kid you think is doing better to, use to set the other one up. Don't do that. As a teacher, don't give more attention to the kids that are doing well, coming first and second, and you forget the kids that are coming last. That particular last kid can actually flip the odds. Meet that kid where that kid is, and please make sure you understand the need and the reason why you actually went for that opportunity. Of course, we have to collaborate. If you're a parent, make sure you go for Parent-Teachers Association meeting. Make sure you contribute to the school. Be around, be present. Look at your kids' homework. Ask them if they're having struggles. Just help them the best way you can. It's a lot going on right now and a lot of expectations on them. And so many craziness going on in our world. And all the negative news, the tragic news, the wars all over the place, it affects our kids. It affects us as adults. How much more our kids? So I just want to encourage you to keep on keeping on and keep on doing your best. And God is going to be on our side. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Trudy. And thank you, everyone, for being here today. This has been a very informative session. And I would say at your own time, maybe much later on. You can just go back and replay this session and listen to everything that has been said. Share it with your friends, your families, people who you know have children who are struggling. You know, share this messages and sessions. It's actually a link has been put on the message chat where you can replay and watch this session all over again. And I'd like to say a big thank you to everyone. We have our next session on October 19th. Yeah, 19th of October. So save the date on your calendars and prepare for another amazing session that we will have here. You can explore our mental health resource center. There's a link also on the chat group for that. So go on and get all the information that would help you and help a loved one. So I'd like to say a very big thank you to the organizers, Ebenezer, Flavor. Thank you very much for that uplifting, excellent music. Thank you, Dr. Trudy, a million times for all the information that you have passed on today. So I like to round up and I like to say good night or good morning to wherever you're calling in from. And thank you very much and have a lovely day. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ify, you want to say last word? No, no. Yeah, thank you. Bye. Yeah.